In the winter of 1897, in the rugged hills of Greenbrier County, West Virginia, a young woman named Zona Heaster Shue was found dead at the foot of her stairs. She had been married for only a few short months to a mysterious blacksmith named Erasmus Trout Shue. The local doctor briefly examined her, but Trout was so distraught, cradling his wife's head and sobbing, that the doctor moved quickly. Trout Shue personally dressed Zona for her funeral, choosing a high-necked dress with a stiff collar and wrapping a large, colorful scarf tightly around her throat. He insisted on being the only one to handle her body. At the wake, he stood vigil by the open casket, preventing anyone from getting too close to Zona's head, claiming his grief was too sacred to be disturbed. Zona was buried in a small hillside cemetery, and the case seemed closed as a tragic, fainting spell that led to a fall. But Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heaster, never trusted Trout. She began to pray every night for a sign, believing her daughter had been murdered. After 4 nights of fervent prayer, Mary Jane claimed that Zona's ghost appeared at the foot of her bed. According to Mary Jane, the spirit of Zona was cold to the touch and surrounded by a strange, pale light. The ghost described her life with Trout as a nightmare of domestic abuse. She then reached up, gripped her own neck, and twisted her head completely around until it faced backward. She told her mother that Trout had broken her neck in a fit of rage because she hadn't prepared dinner. The ghost returned for 3 more nights, repeating the story in vivid, terrifying detail. Mary Jane went to the local prosecutor, John Preston, and demanded an investigation. Ordinarily, ghost stories were laughed out of court, but Mary Jane was so precise and unshakable in her details that Preston, intrigued by the mother's conviction, ordered Zona's body to be exhumed. Trout Shue fought the exhumation with a violent desperation, claiming it would desecrate his wife's memory. When the doctors finally opened the casket and removed the high-necked scarf, they were met with a sickening sight. Zona's neck had indeed been broken, the windpipe was crushed, and the first and second vertebrae were completely severed. A hangman's break. Trout Shue was immediately arrested and put on trial for murder. The case became a national sensation, as it was the first time in American legal history that ghostly testimony was allowed into the record. The defense tried to humiliate Mary Jane on the stand, mocking her visions. But the more they grilled her, the more consistent and chilling her story became. The jury was stunned. Between the physical evidence of the crushed neck, which matched the ghost's description perfectly, and Trout's history of violence, it was discovered he had 2 previous wives who died under suspicious circumstances. They found him guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, where he died 3 years later of an unknown illness. The Greenbrier ghost remains the only case in United States history where a person was convicted of a crime based on the testimony of a spirit. A state historical marker now stands near the site, commemorating the event. It is a story that challenges the boundary between the living and the dead, proving that sometimes the truth refuses to stay buried in the earth. Skeptics argue that Mary Jane Heaster simply used the ghost story as a way to voice her own suspicions in a way that the community would understand. But how did she know the exact nature of the break, the broken neck, that was hidden by the scarf and the high collar, without any medical training? The precision of the spirit's report remains the ultimate mystery. Today, locals in Greenbrier County say that on cold winter nights, a white shape can sometimes be seen wandering the old cemetery. They say Zona Heaster Shue is finally at peace, but she remains a sentinel for justice. Her story is a reminder that the bond between a mother and child can bridge even the infinite gap of death to bring a killer to light. The Greenbrier Ghost is a tale of rural horror and supernatural justice. It is a reminder that in the quiet hollows of West Virginia, the past is never truly gone. The scarf that Trout Shoe tied so tightly couldn't hide the truth, and the voice of a dead girl was loud enough to be heard in a court of law. It remains the most successful haunting in history. As the wind whistles through the Appalachian pines, the story of Zona and Trout serves as a warning. The dead may be silent, but they are not always gone. The Greenbrier ghost proved that even the grave has ears, and that a secret whispered in the dark can be shouted from the mountain tops by a spirit who refuses to be forgotten. Thanks for watching After Hours Mysteries. Until next time.